A day in the sun is not a day wasted. Last night I took an 1/8 reduction of all my medications again. So I took 1/4 of a Seroquel, which is actually a quarter reduction, but it's really hard to put those into 8s. And I took 1/8 off my tablet of trazodone, and I split a 150 cap of lithium into 2 capsules, so it's not exactly perfect, but it's good enough. So I took about 525 milligrams of lithium. I took a 300 cap, a 150 cap, and then half of a 150 cap. So I've been doing that the last 2 days, and that's how Hardy Nutritional suggested that I do it, was reduce everything evenly. So with that strategy, it'll take about 8 weeks to come off everything if it goes smoothly. So that's my focus for the next 8 weeks. And another focus is that I feel really tired and lethargic and not eating healthy, so I had the idea to tomorrow put grass-fed butter in my coffee to at least make it a healthy, bulletproof like coffee and give me some healthy fats. Whoa, that's an insane helicopter. Never heard one sound like that before. That's really intense. Wow. Never heard one like that before. So quiet, sunshine, earthing, my feet are on the ground. These are the things that help the circulation. And I didn't go to Celine Dion. I woke up at 9:30 and I felt really tired, probably from rollerblading yesterday, and I just felt like I could go, but at the same time I was tired and not showered, and so I can always go another time. The main thing that it came down to was that if I went, I wasn't feeling super energetic, so it just wouldn't be as enjoyable. And the hotel would have been at least $100 American, and the ticket would have been 150 to 200 for decent seats. And so I thought I'd rather go when I am feeling a little bit more energetic. So hopefully in the next 2 months I can work on that a little bit more. So I might go to Walmart tonight, which is about a 40-minute drive, and get a helmet. Because yesterday I just felt a little exposed without a helmet on, and I've never worn one, but maybe it would be good to wear one. Well, of course it is. That way maybe I can not be as worried. I can be less worried wearing a helmet and maybe push myself a little bit more. Not that I really push myself, I don't. I'm quite careful. But maybe if I was wearing a helmet, I would. It was interesting. I didn't really see too many people along that path. It was about 25 kilometers, and the few that I did see, there was a group of 2 girls that sort of hooted and hollered at me, and there was another person who did the same, and another person stopped and said, "Oh, you're doing so good," and I wasn't doing it for that. But today I kind of realized that's sort of like feedback from the universe, that when people see me rollerblading, they feel the urge to comment or compliment or whatever, and I don't need that. But I'm just saying, it's like the universe giving me a like in reality, saying, do more of this. And that's another reason I want to get the helmet, so I can skate from where I am. Whereas yesterday I parked somewhere and then went right on the path. So if I'm going to be on a road, it's good to have a helmet. I always wear wrist guards, but that's it. And I have done 2 Superman dives with the wrist guards, and they were very helpful. Somebody stopped beside me and said, "You were doing 15 along that corner. Have you ever bailed or something?" And I said, "Never done this trail." So I didn't really answer their question, but I didn't see if there was a speed limit, or I don't have a speedometer on me. For some reason I find the flies really cute, how they clean their face. I don't know why. Clean your face. They've been kind of landing on my knee, and a couple of them at a time, and then they all take off at the same time, and they're just playing. Even flies play. I've had this sense that they were practicing being fast for those times when they have to be fast and fly away really quick in order to live. I have no idea if that's true, but just being here with them made me think that. I wonder how long they live. If they even live long enough to utilize that skill, or if by doing that they actually enhance the speed of the collective consciousness of the flies. So as long as some flies are practicing that, all of the flies are getting the benefit. And I was looking through some old writing that I did when I was starting to investigate these alternative ways of thinking about mania and psychosis. I think I started reading about alternative stuff in early 2015. It might have been 2014, but I don't know. I think I started reading about all this stuff in early 2014. And when I first came across books like The Spiritual Gift of Madness and Rethinking Madness, the first by Seth Farber and the second by Paris Williams, I actually went to a bookstore that has a lot of spiritual books, and those 2 books were both on the sale shelf, which is the only shelf I looked at probably, because look, there's 4 of them. They're all going to take off. Only 2 of them did. Oh, he took off, but nobody went with him. Anyway, I think it was 2014, because then I got the help of my psychiatrist to help me taper off meds in late 2014, and then in 2015, I went to the Revisioning Madness conference at Esalen. And in 2016, I went to Emma Bragdon's Spiritual Emergence Coach training. And to me, it was interesting how as soon as I read those two books, Spiritual Gift of Madness and Rethinking Madness, they just pretty much 100% resonated with how I already thought and felt. It's just somebody had happened to write a book about them, which is kind of nice. That means I don't have to write that book because those types of books are already out there and they're very well done, and I don't even think my brain would be able to do that. I don't even know why I started talking about that. I think there was some kind of point to it, but... What? Book. Maybe I could be roller bipolar or something. I'm just sort of wondering, oh yeah, I was talking about that stuff. I started writing stuff while I was investigating those books, and so I have a book. Well, it could be a book. And I was reading over some of it from where I left off, and my thinking was just so different back then. What I had, it seemed like so many levels removed from where my brain is at now, and I guess that's part of it. So I think there's still some value in it. So I might try to go through it and edit it again. And keep on working on self-dialogue as well, plus tapering off these medications and somehow getting my energy back, which is mostly my fault for just eating crap. I think before I was at least under eating, which is good for energy levels. And I'm struggling with things like showering. I'm just sort of too lazy to do that, which is pretty gross. I think I get in the shower every 3 days, which I would like 2 more. But I wake up late and then the day just flies by. I'm in this space where time goes by quick. It's almost like the whole day is ahead of me, yet I feel like, oh, there's nothing to do. I have no energy. Nothing can really get done. I don't have time. It's just, I guess that sense is from those lower states. And so being outside in the sun is something easy to do. Just sit here. And I remember before I would sit in the sun all day, and that was a day well spent. I definitely want to do more going to the river and rollerblading and maybe getting into some self-dialogue insights. I haven't really written down any insights. My brain has gone out of that mode, which I think is good because then I would just be accumulating more and more stuff. So I'm going to put on my website Pure Potential Life Coaching and just see what happens, because I want to start the Pure Potential project, but I feel like it's important to do things that I can just do that don't really require permission from others, mostly. So we'll we'll see how this next month goes. Having a good tan is a good thing, for sure. It'd be cool to create a 1-800 number for special messages and visions for people to share their positive stuff. It's important to remember the positive visions for those more difficult times. And this morning I had an insight into that scary heartbeat I've had while trying to fall asleep. I realized that the first time I felt that sensation of being so terrified of death like that, I don't know how old I was, but anywhere from 4 to 6, maybe. And I must have been trying to fall asleep, but all of a sudden I woke up and jumped out of my bed in the worst terror ever, realizing that one day I'm gonna die and I don't want to. And I was just a tiny kid. And I ran out into the living room and my mom was there and I was crying. And I hugged her and she put me on her lap and was kind of rocking me and going, shh. And she didn't ask what was wrong. And I never said anything. I was just a kid. I was just scared. And I remember feeling so comforted. And then I sort of drifted off. But I think that was just the first time I realized what death is. And it's the exact same feeling. Especially the most recent one that I had the other night. It was the exact same terror. And I feel like I watched a Krishnamurti video yesterday, and it was the last talk of the Transformation of Man series, where he's speaking with Dr. David Bohm and Dr. Shainberg. And in the last video, he talks about how when we die, if we haven't ended our image of ourselves, then bits of that go on, spread throughout humanity. And that's exactly what I've had the sense of. And I might have talked about that in one way or another. But I feel like that first time when I felt that as a child, it was the day I was born as an ego. Because the ego's the thing that's afraid of death. But it's when that fragment from humanity and bits conglomerated to sort of coalesce as my so-called ego. And in that moment, I was afraid to die one day. The ego's afraid to die. And I think because I watched that video last night, I had that insight into that this morning sometime. And how it relates to is that it's part of what I'm talking about, and others have talked about this too. It's from experience, where what really is going to die is the ego, and it can die, and parts of it can die throughout life, and it feels like death, because that's the part that's afraid to die. So the fear is the fear of the loss of the self, the ego self, the accumulations, and the me, and so it feels even more like part of that is trying to die, which feels the same as the first time it came into being, in my being when I was a child. it's the same fear, whether it's just coming into me or it's actually trying to leave me. It's the same thing. And just like when I was a kid and I had that realization and I was terrified, there was a bodily reaction. My heart was pounding. I jumped out of bed, and that's exactly what happens now. But I just think it's the actual trying to end that. Or it could even be that more of that is coming back in to me because I'm not completely finished with it or immune to it. And part of me feels like perhaps I need it, because otherwise I would just go walking off into oblivion, and who knows what would happen then. That would make some good self-dialogue video, but it wouldn't make my family happy or people who care about me. And part of me would like to design my life in a way to just go like that and see what happens. And that requires some money. I would like to be able to do that and eat healthy food. Even now, I'm so lazy, I'd like to just be able to go and get a really good, healthy meal. I'd rather go get it from somebody else making it. And maybe that's part of the social thing, is that if I do go the healthy route again, most people do their healthy thing, but they're alone in that process. Whereas if I was being healthy, but supporting other people, creating things to be able to make it available for people to be healthy, well, that's actually supporting the whole and not just myself. So maybe that's part of the resistance to being healthy and just creating my own personal little health routine. So it'd be nice to spend $50 a day or whatever on food, and it doesn't matter, or even 60 or however it costs to have 3 meals out and about in the community versus being at home making it. I don't know if that's part of it or not. I'm wondering if I release this book, and even if it makes a little bit of money and hopefully helps people, it could be a precursor to the self-dialogue videos. Another thing is, for some reason, people keep sending me credit, and I always say yes. So I have quite a bit of money in credit, and I could just decide to just do the process anyway, and I at least have access to money. I don't have the money, but maybe in that process something else would come into being that would allow for the process to continue, plus that money to be paid off. I have no idea. And I'm only sharing this because to me these are real concerns or obstacles in a way to people who have this propensity towards map consciousness that might propel one to just go. And the trouble with just go is it's not part of the functioning of society, but can a lifestyle be created that is part functional? And I even thought that it'd be interesting if people who have this omnipolar or bipolar consciousness could be in business in their life each moment. So usually we're creative in some way. A friend of mine showed me this app called WeChat, where you can have a store on there and people can buy your stuff. Well, if you're just walking around in daily life and you're having conversations, and then if there's an app that integrates selling what you have to sell or sharing what you have to share or being able to collaborate, but out in life instead of the way society's been designed, like work 9 to 5, have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at these times, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, it's just something has to integrate. And I just want to share these things because I think as a bipolar consciousness, these are some of the things that I wonder about. It's about the design of the whole and how through our actions and how we live our lives, it could redesign the whole. Just by the way we live our lives. And I think that's what map consciousness is trying to do when it attempts to make us act differently. Well, it does make us act differently. And then after it's over, we have free will to try to get with that. And I talked about how Krishnamurti talks about how we don't do anything unless we're under pressure. Well, map consciousness gives us that pressure, and then when the pressure's over, are we going to still do something? Or are we just going to live in fear? And the prevailing system is wanting us to live in fear, and they make it into a personal medical problem, but I think it's a problem of living. It's an actual problem of the way we're living and how our lives are so meaningless. So can one live a life of meaning, and what is the structure of that? And how do we create that structure? By just living it, not by pre-planning the structure. So I do kind of look forward to the day when I eventually put stuff out there and get some feedback, because it's one thing to create context around meaning making and all the things I've talked about that I don't remember. And after all of that, I'm sitting here in a beautiful place, but still not quite feeling it. So there's more to be done. There's more to explore. I'm doing this coming off meds thing, but then there's also this lifestyle design thing. I feel like I want a camper van and to be able to drive around and rollerblade, and if I was able to do that as part of lifestyle design for a while, then that might be somewhat inspiring. Can one inspire another who's gone through all this to live a different way that might actually be more in alignment with our nervous system, such that the supposed symptoms and problems fall away when we're living in this other way? And I don't know if that's true, but many of these things I've had a sense of when in those states. So how does one make those things traits? How does one make designing one's lifestyle a trait and doing it day by day, moment to moment? Earlier today, I saw these lizards fighting. They're those weird snake lizards. They have feet, but they look like snakes. And so I'll share the video because I guess this can be beautiful too.